Want help to grow your business? Download Bryn, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit bryn.ai or search the App Store today.
Hello, welcome to the next episode of Masters of Business. My name is Dr. Adam Fraser, and what I'm going to be talking to you about today is how to find the balance between work and play. Now, a bit of background to me, I'm a human performance researcher. So out of university, I worked with elite athletes, Olympic athletes, and my role there was how do we elevate their performance. Then the military hired me to do a similar thing with them. And for the last 15 years, I've been working in organizations around how do we elevate people's performance? How do we get them to perform better? Now, if you think about the world of business at the moment, it's evolving and changing so fast. And I spend my time doing research with different universities all over the world, but I also do about 120 presentations a year. And to do a presentation, you've got to have multiple briefing calls with the organisation, with senior people in that organisation. You've got to do your research on that industry. So and I've done that for the last decade. So 120 times a year for the last decade, I've been working with different organisations and different industries. So it has given me a really awesome snapshot at how business has changed in Australia, New Zealand, throughout Asia, the US, and also in the Middle East. And a business school recently said to me, we want access to that data because I've captured all those conversations. What keeps them awake at night? What's their strategy moving forward? What are they worried about? And when they analysed that data, they came back and said it's been a fascinating activity. They said if you look at the first 7 years of that period, what your clients talked about is they're going through lots of change. But the caveat was it was change in this area or that area. So regulations changing or technologies changing. They said how the conversation has altered in the last 3 years, though, is what your clients are talking about is they're experiencing change on every front. Regulatory change, consumer behaviour change, platforms on which we access information, who our competition is, how transparent our service is. What they're talking about is this perfect storm of change, that they're experiencing change on all fronts. And when they told me this, I thought, God, how did I miss that? Because I have this conversation every day. Pharmaceutical companies, aged care, universities, what everyone's talking about is that the sand is shifting so fast. I mean, a lot of people watching this are entrepreneurs and small business owners. Even think about the people you hire and how they're changing. Now, every year Cisco, which is a global IT company, do a report where they interview people all over the planet. And what they do is ask them a series of questions. Now, they then take this report and put it in and publish it. Now, one of the questions they always ask people is, they ask the new generation entering the workforce a question. So in this report, every year they ask the people entering the workforce a question, and that is, what can you not live without? What do you need to survive in today's society? Here's the top 5 from last year's survey. So as you can see, air was the first one. So they said we need air, which is pretty reasonable. The next one was food. They said we also need water and we need shelter. However, for the first time in the history of this survey, there was a new entry in the top 5. Because last year, 55% of the generation entering the workforce today said they could not live without. Some of you may think iPhone. However, it was internet access. So let's get this straight. 55% of the generation entering the workforce today said that they would die if they could not get online. And we wonder why different generations in the workplace can't relate to each other. Actually, speaking of children, my wife and I had our second daughter a year ago. Now, during the birth of our first child, I timed my wife's contractions on my iPhone. I downloaded an app called Contraction Timer. That's it there. Now, I wasn't that happy with it because if you look at this app, it only gives you an average every 60 minutes. And I thought, I'm a scientist, I need more data than that. So I started to look for a new app for this birth when I came across this thing. It's called the Cry Translator. This is an app you can download to your iPhone. If your baby is crying, you stick your iPhone in its face and in 6 seconds tells you what it's crying about, whether you've got to feed it, hold it, and then what it does is spits out instructions of what to do next. And it just walks you through it step by step. And it must be written for men though, because step one in every option is please pick up your baby. Personal technology is totally changing the way we interact and live. But also, let's look at how companies are using technology. There's a pharmaceutical company in the US that produces the flu vaccine. So the flu shot, they make that. The other part of their business is distribution. So not only do they manufacture it, but they also send that product out. Now, these guys are plotting the spread of the flu across the globe using social media. So what they've done is written algorithms that sweep social media platforms and look for tags like I have the flu, I'm sick in bed with a cold. And then what they do is plot that data on where it has come from, in the globe. Now, they then put all these data points together and using a mathematical model, predict where the flu's going to go next. Because the flu sweeps over the globe like a flock of birds. They're tracking its movement. But the genius part is they're altering all their supply chain logistics to suit that data. Last year, this company saved over $10 million in supply chain optimization informed by Twitter. The rules have changed. On KLM today, you can choose who you sit next to by their Facebook profile. We are totally rethinking the way we deliver our services. Think about it. What's the biggest B&B website in the world that does not own a property? Airbnb. What's the biggest taxi company in the world that doesn't own a car? Uber. We're rethinking our models. We're rethinking what our value is. And the narrative in business has gone from how do we keep doing the same stuff but to more people, which is scale, to how do we stand out and offer something different? Innovation. This is what it's all about, questioning our models. Now, the problem with that is it puts a lot of pressure on people and it makes it hard to turn off because we're having to reinvent and evolve all the time. And we've been doing some really cool research on work-life balance. Like, how do you have balance in a world that's shifting and changing so fast? And today I want to present you that research. Now, it actually came from one of the most unlikely places you could think of. Our work-life balance research came from the world of sport. Now, I want you to take a moment to think about this question. What's an example of a great sporting choke? And a sporting choke is where someone's in a winning position, they're playing really, really well, and all of a sudden they screw it up and they lose. You could probably, the big ones, Greg Norman in 1996 in the Masters. The guy goes in the last 9 holes, he's 6 shots ahead, which is an unlosable lead. The guy lost by 5. He fell apart. He imploded. New Zealand in the America's Cup were 8-1 up and lost 9-8. We've got all these examples of sporting chokes. But the big question is, why do people choke under pressure? What makes people that are playing really well fall apart, buckle under that pressure, and end up losing? Now, there's a couple of things. One of the big ones is just fear. So we have fear overwhelms us, and we can have fear of failure, but also we can have fear of success as well. So fear's a big one. One is self-doubt too. We doubt our ability or our preparation. So we've got these. Now the big ones are we overthink it. So when I say overthink it, we obsess and worry. So rather than taking action, we overanalyze it. And the epitome of sport is you practice a movement over and over again. And you practice it so it's ingrained in your motor cortex. And when you go out to play, you just let that practice take over. But when we overthink, it interrupts that pattern and our movement becomes clunky. But the big one is that we focus on outcome, not execution. So what we do is we worry about the result rather than what we can take care of in that moment. If you think about big organizations, what happens to productivity when they announce restructure, change, or redundancy? It goes down. Why does it go down? Because everyone's thinking about what does this mean to me? Will I have a job? Who do I report to? Will we keep that budget? But these are the big ones that make people choke under pressure. And our work-life balance research came from 3 interactions. Now, the first interaction was with this woman. This is Kerry Potter. She won the gold medal in the beach volleyball 2000 Olympics. Interesting thing about this match is her and her partner are playing the Brazilians, who are the world champs and the favourites. The Aussies aren't expected to win, but they win the first set, and then it is 10-all in the second set. And all the Aussies have to do is win 2 points in a row, and they will take the gold medal home with them. But they can't close it out. They win one, we win one, they win one, we win one. It keeps going backwards and forwards. Tension's rising. Both teams are exhausted. The pressure is on. Now they hand Kerry the ball. And Kerry steps up to the service line and she serves an ace. And then she serves a serve they can't get back into play. She wins them the gold medal. Now, I interviewed Kerry and I said, Kerry, how do you handle that? How do you...
To continue enjoying this presentation, download Bryn, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit bryn.ai or search the App Store today.